Well, hello everybody. My name is Michael Seary and I am the incoming chair of the Gordon Research Conference Chemistry Education Research and Practice meeting being held this summer in Maine. And I'm very excited about this meeting and really wanted to share in advance some details about the meeting for participants. For new participants who may not be used to the GRC approach, and also for regular returners to remind them about the meeting and also share some initiatives that we're running in 2025. I should say these are all personal opinions. This is not an official GRC video. Information about the GRC and how it runs is available from grc.org. I'm sharing this as chair of the meeting and sharing it in the hope that it will be useful to participants as they join the meeting. So I have an overview on this screen, but really the first thing is just to give a sense of what the GRC is. We talk about the GRC a lot. There's some details there in the left-hand column about the goal of the GRC, but really it's quite an interesting and unusual format. There's about 400 conferences in the GRC portfolio. They run on 2-year cycles, so the last GRC CERP was 2023. The venue is determined and pretty much now set for each conference on this 2-year cycle. So CERP has lived in Bates College for a few years. It's usually located away from distractions, most often in rural New England. It runs from Sunday to Thursdays in terms of academic program, a checkout on Friday, and we are essentially closed off from the outside world. That includes social media of scientific proceedings. And the entire model is built on a very heavy emphasis on sharing of unpublished work by invited speakers and also substantial discussion on that work. So the idea of being located away from distraction, no social media, means that people are comfortable to share and discuss in depth work that has not been published. In order to foster a community in the week, there's a maximum of 200 attendees, and we are all in a closed single-strand program for the week. And of course, most attendees will be presenters or will present and contribute to the program through a poster. And the overall aim really is to bring leaders in the discipline as well as younger scholars for deep networking and to align with the GRC goal of advancing the frontiers of science. And this model, and quite unusual model, has meant that the GRC has become highly regarded in the field. And it retains quite a distinctive approach from the typical conference formats that we're used to. A reasonably new initiative over the last few years, and we had our first one 2 years ago, is that the Sunday to Thursday academic program for GRC is preceded by a Saturday-Sunday Gordon Research Seminar program specifically targeted at younger scholars, graduate students, postdocs, and so on. So they will have been at that for the weekend before many of them will join us at GRC. In terms of GRC CERP, it's quite unusual in the 400 odd conferences of the GRC to have an education themed conference. And in fact, I think there are only 2, Chemistry Education Research and Practice, which has been running under that name since 2004, but alternatively since 1994, and Visualization in Science and Education. There were other disciplinary education meetings, which are now discontinued in biology and physics. And within chemistry, I think the GRC CERP meeting and indeed the GRC brand being attributed to chemistry education means it gives it a very high profile within the field of chemistry education and chemistry education research among those working in the discipline of chemistry generally. Our colleagues in chemistry know what GRC is. So this places a very high burden on me as chair to make sure that the conference is of a very high quality, and it means that those who are involved in the meeting in various guises, it's important for them, it's important for careers and promotion and sharing their work. In the left-hand blue column, I've shared the conference theme for our week, exploring interactions in the chemistry curriculum in physical and digital spaces. And in my opening gambit at the start of the conference, I'll be discussing what I mean by that a little bit more. So the GRC CERP has a chair and a vice chair. So I'm joined by Alina Moon. And the meeting location, as you hopefully now know, is in Bates College in Lewiston, Maine. The meeting begins, formally the scientific proceedings begin at 7:15 on the Sunday and ends on Thursday night. And participants can check in on Sunday afternoon and need to check out by Friday at 10 a.m. And just to give you a sense of the meeting in previous years, this is taken from the GRC website. You can see all of the past meetings going back the last decade or so. You can see we've been pretty much at Bates College. We've come to know and love over the last several meetings, and you can see the previous chairs and their conference themes. So this is a well-oiled, well-established meeting in the calendar. So the daily schedule, this will be our timetable for the week. In general terms, a little bit of flex with each day, but in general terms, we've got breakfast each morning, straight into science sessions from 9 till after midday. Then we have afternoon poster session after lunch, and then evening dinner with presentations, and then we have poster sessions continue informally into the evening with an evening social. On Monday, we'll also have what we call a power hour, which will be facilitated by two of our attendees. And on Wednesday evening, instead of the two presentations, we'll have 4 presentations from younger scholars in the field. So as you'll learn as the week goes on, this is a pretty intense schedule. And a pro tip early on is to nap often. Be selfish with making sure that you get plenty of sleep, plenty of downtime, so that you can keep engaging intellectually as the week goes on. I've just shared here some screen grabs from the website, and you'll see the sort of a regular flow to the day, be it morning or afternoon. And most importantly, I suppose, for participants, obviously the presentations for speakers and the involvement in discussion. Discussion is a major theme in the meeting. And I suppose one of the challenges of the meeting is what we mean by discussion. And the structure of discussion is shared in the left-hand column here. Discussants are now working with speakers in advance of the meeting to identify headline discussion themes for each talk. These are things that will relate to the overall conference theme, that will relate to the session theme, that will relate to the speaker's area of expertise, and those sort of 3 components will guide the discussion theme. Obviously, within the construct of what a speaker will talk about, there are going to be lots of things that could be discussed, and there will obviously be lots of questions about what the speaker will discuss. But even though there is an extensive discussion time in the program, we really want to try and keep this focused. So I would just say there will be a lot of things that people will want to talk about, but please do work with the discussants to ensure a deep and meaningful discussion and limit the discussion in the room to those shared themes. As I will share in a moment, there will be lots of subsequent opportunities for discussion on a broader basis. So my very elementary diagram here is really trying to say what we aim to do in discussing at GRC. So we try and move away from question and answer, where at a normal conference, a speaker will give a presentation, participants ask a question, the speakers respond, and so on. So it's just sort of ad hoc, one-on-one individual conversations going on that may or may not be of interest to other people in the room. And what we want to try and do is move that to a discussion, where a discussant working with the speaker will initiate themed questions. People in the room will have discussions among themselves for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then we will open it up to a plenary where different groups will share their perspectives. But rather than just going back and forward, people will build on those perspectives throughout the discussion time, and then this comes back to the discussant for connecting with the speaker and giving some final thoughts. We want to use the shared expertise in the room to inform that discussion rather than a typical conference Q&A. And discussants will have the authority to really lead and direct this. We want to push towards discussion and away from Q&A. And it can be daunting to ask a question, even for very experienced attendees. And Obviously, we want to make sure we have a professional environment where discussion is supportive and indeed supported. And all contributions are respectful and mindful of how we speak about others, be it people's work, be it our own perspectives, and of course, be it about the students that we are working with. So as I mentioned, discussants will have strategies in place and will manage their discussion in a variety of ways. We want to keep it flexible. It'll depend on the time of the week and so on. There won't be a set menu. Discussants will have the authority to structure it in the way that suits their particular topic best. Discussants do have a tough task. It's a very limited time for discussion, even though it's much more generous than a normal conference. So they're going to need to take decisions to keep the discussion focused on highlighted topics. So please do try and work with them in that regard. We are conscious, and I am very conscious, that there will be lots of questions for speakers and lots of topics that don't get aired in discussion time, or that people may not feel comfortable talking about in a plenary way. So we will be initiating a sort of a lunch with speaker or dinner with speaker opportunity, especially for those newer to the meeting, so that they get the opportunity to discuss in a more familiar environment, a smaller environment, some of the topics that they're interested in. To manage these different types of interactions and to make sure that everybody's getting a chance to contribute, discussants, depending on different times of the week, may ask, if you're a first timer and haven't asked a question, or if you're a graduate student and haven't asked a question, they may call out different cohorts of people throughout the week. And this is really just to get a sense of making sure that everybody is asking questions. And also to manage the, I don't have a new thing to raise, I have a additional thing to raise. There will be different signs used. So for example, the peace sign may be used to say you want to build on the previous comment. So that helps the discussant manage the discussion around the room. Of course, everything must be accessible, and discussants will have helpers with microphones, so please wait until you get the microphone. Nobody's voice is loud enough for everybody in the room, so please use a microphone. I will note that one presenter is deaf, and the meeting will be signed using American Sign Language, so this will need some consideration, so make sure that, that you are asking the question only using microphones. Okay, obviously each GRC evolves and we always learn from the last one. And from the last GRC, we've had some feedback and some good ideas. And I really want to thank all of the people who contacted me, who have contributed ideas and thought about how we can continue to make this meeting great. So a couple of initiatives that we're going to bring in for 2025 is that one of the things I really struggled with was that as chair in planning this meeting for 2 years, I actually got very little time at the start of the meeting to set the scene. And so I'm being very selfish and I want more time. To facilitate that, we will actually have an additional 15 minutes at the start of the program. So even though the website will say 7:30, the scientific proceedings will start at 7:15. And that's just really for me to give a little bit more sense about the meeting theme, setting expectation for the week, and managing discussions, so that it really sets the meeting off in good stead. We're also, we're educators. We know how to do this in practice, so we want to model behavior. So our open and keynote session will have highly structured and guided discussion, and really this is just a chance for people to establish the norms for discussion for the week, just to show, especially those new to GRC, but everybody, to remind them about how discussion will work. So I'll share a little bit more about that later. As I've already mentioned, we are refocusing really collective discussion rather than direct Q&A. I think the COVID break meant that we forgot that that was sort of a major aspect of GRC. As I mentioned, we'll have opportunities for participants to continue in a formal way with speakers, but of course, speakers are around for the week. Please do approach them at any stage. We're adding in the program on Wednesday evening components for younger scholars to really show off some of the amazing emerging work coming out, including opportunity for somebody selected from the GRS weekend meeting to connect the two meetings better. Participants may have queries or things that they wish to raise, and of course as chair it can be quite difficult to make sure I get to see and talk to everybody. So we will have two ombuds, and they'll be independent attendees who participants can speak to with any queries, and I will meet with those ombuds daily so that anything coming up can just be addressed quite quickly. One thing I'm super conscious of myself is that it is quite a busy time, and of course, as a nice person, you want to make sure you're always talking to people and so on, but sometimes we just need downtime. So I will work with the GRC and the site hosts to identify a quiet zone where attendees can sit and take time out. So we know that if we're in that space, we're not really looking for conversation, we're just looking to sit quietly and ponder all of the learning that we have been having. And you will notice in your sticker, on your badges, just sticker labels if you wish to identify if you're first-time attendees or graduate students and so on, just so that people are aware of the different cohorts in the room. Okay, so I mentioned this opening keynote session, and I really appreciate the work done by discussant Deborah Harrington, keynote speaker Scott Lewis, and Ira Kasparian, who have worked already in sharing this exemplar that we are using to work through the week with other discussants and speakers. And you'll see here the discussion format here is slightly different to the rest of the week. We just have very short discussion after each presentation, just to address some headline concepts, but then we have a slightly longer discussion time at the end, and this is going to be highly structured and really help us model out the discussion for the week. I have flagged here that the website will continue to say 7:30 for the meeting start. We will start at 7:15. The email information you get out in advance will note 7:15. Okay, so finally, just some tips. I mean, it's a busy week, it's a fun week, it's an intellectually stimulating week, and it's an overwhelming week. It's all of those things in one. Here's a screen grab of how happy we all looked on Monday morning last time. You can see dress code is very informal, room is quite intimate. It's a nice space to be in. This is the poster hole, so you can see again, we arrange people to have posters on particular days, so you'll be allocated a particular day for your poster, and these will run from 4 to 6 on most days. So my tips are, and I'm sure many people will have tips, and I really welcome hearing them so I can share. It is a busy week, and you can get tired pretty quickly, so do rest well and take downtime as you need. As I've highlighted, I'm hoping to have an identified quiet zone, and the campus itself is really beautiful. There's lots of opportunity for just outdoor time and a bit of fresh air. The nature of this conference really facilitates networking in its most positive form. And I would really advocate meeting somebody new each day. So that means you can just sit somewhere different each day, so the little clusters of discussion you have can be different. And the really kind of common bond between us all is that everybody in the room cares about students and cares about learning chemistry. So within that very broad umbrella, find out what your common interests are with other people. And I mean, lots of collaborations have begun at the GRC. As well as, sort of from a well-being perspective, the busyness of the week, from an intellectual perspective, the program is very intense. And my own experience is that everything is of interest and I want to know more about everything. And of course, by Tuesday, I'm just completely exhausted. So do some work in advance, have a look at the program, what things are really coming out in terms of interest for you, maybe do some prep work on those speakers and what they're talking about. What are your main intellectual goals for the week? And obviously the poster session is just amazing in terms of the quality, but also the vast amount of work that's presented. And the poster list will be shared in advance of the meeting. So just work through that. Who are you going to spend some time with at poster sessions? And the other thing to say is, we're academics, we're a little bit shy, a little bit awkward. Everybody feels that, regardless of their level of experience. So it is a friendly environment. It is a place where you can interact with others when you want to. And everybody, regardless of whether we've been there for a long time or whether it's our first time, appreciates when somebody else makes the effort to say hello. So do not feel afraid to approach people or to just say hello to somebody. It's a nice, friendly environment. And again, that common bond of caring about students and caring about learning chemistry is a kind of good opening gambit for conversation. Okay, so I hope that short presentation has been useful just in terms of sharing my sort of overarching goals for the GRC and a sense of the culture of the week and how it works. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing you on Sunday, the 6th of July in Maine, and wish you safe travels to the venue. Thank you.